this was the job that Ben Johnson wanted. All right, welcome in. It is the January 22nd edition of the Breer Report. The coaching carousel has really started spinning over the last couple of days. I am a day late on this. I'll apologize for that. I was in Atlanta for the national championship game and dealing with the disaster that was Hartsfield on Tuesday. But we're back now, and we're going to get you updated on everything that's happened the last couple of days. We're going to start our first topic for today. We'll be on the Chicago Bears landing Ben Johnson. And I think the most interesting thing about this is how there's almost a full circle feel to it. And if you go back a year, I think this was the job that Ben Johnson wanted. And it didn't wind up coming open. Matt Eberflus's team caught fire at the end of the year. He got a bit of a stay of execution there. And they ran it back with he and Ryan Poles in 2024. We all know how that went this year. And so over the course of the months after, the Bears decided to stick with Eberflus and Ben Johnson decided to stick with the Lions. They sort of reconfigured some of their priorities where I think for the Bears, initially looking at it after firing Matt Eberflus, they said, we need a leader of men. We need somebody who can coach more than just one guy. We need somebody who can come in and be kind of the tip of the spear, the front of the program. On the other end, I think Ben Johnson used the time that he had over the last year to recalibrate some things that he was looking at, what was important to him, and really kind of maybe looking inward at the Lions organization and what they had provided for him and everybody else over the last few years. So he started to look at it and say, I'm going to prioritize alignment with the general manager. I'm going to prioritize an ownership group that's not only going to support you, but also be able and willing to identify its own previous mistakes and go in and fix them, much like the Lions did under Sheila Ford over the last few years, and much like the Lions have had with Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell since 2021. So over the last, I'd say 2 months since firing Matt Eberflus, the Bears did get a better look at what it looked like when the quarterback isn't taken care of. So not to say the guys in there weren't trying, but Thomas Brown had been stretched so thin from going from pass game coordinator to offensive coordinator to head coach. They just didn't have the resources devoted to the quarterback. So the Bears double back and look at it and say the quarterback is going to be an important part of this. We still want the leader of men, but the quarterback's got to be taken care of. Meanwhile, the interview process starts and Ben Johnson goes out looking, and he's a little surprised with how well he hit it off with Ryan Poles in that meeting room and really liked how Ryan Poles was reflective over his first 3 years. Really smart guy who was able to look back and say, I made mistakes on A, B, C, and D, and it's not going to happen again because I've learned from it. At the same time, going in with George McCaskey and Kevin Warren and really getting a good feel for them, he started to find some of the things that he was looking for. And beyond just the quarterback, beyond just the fact that Caleb Williams was there, he got a better idea of what the Bears could offer him from a structural standpoint, from an ownership standpoint. And once those boxes started to check, you look at it and you say, okay, could this come together? Will this come together? And then the final piece, of course, is you look at the quarterback and what's best for the quarterback. And Ben Johnson, I think, is going to be really, really good for Caleb Williams. So that comes together. Obviously, a big domino to fall. Timeline of it, Saturday night, the Lions lose. Ben takes the day on Sunday to reset and to dig out, do all the work you got to do in Detroit to dig out from under the season. Sunday night, he reconvenes with his agent. They debrief on the 3 teams that are out there in pursuit, in the Raiders, the Jaguars, and of course the Lions or the Bears. And not that every one of them had a solid offer on the table, but those were the options at that point. Monday morning they talk some more, and then Monday afternoon Ben informs his agent to go get a deal done with the Bears. And now we are where we are, where the Bears have the bell of the ball. They've landed Ben Johnson. And Caleb Williams has a guy that he can build with over the next few years. All right, our second topic. And this, to me, is one that could evolve over the course of the day. We'll see. The Jets are doing their best to work on finalizing Aaron Glenn as their next head coach. Now, it didn't get done last night. About 7 o'clock, I got a text that nothing was going to happen last night. Here we are, Wednesday morning. Deal still not done. I think one of the reasons why this was maybe a little bit slower to move is because the Jets do have some time now, and Aaron Glenn does have some time now. Initially, he was going to go visit with the Jets on Tuesday, the Saints on Wednesday. Obviously, the inclement weather in New Orleans has affected some things. And so Aaron Glenn went back to Detroit to reset a little bit, and we'll see if they can get a deal done. I think, and again, by the time you listen to this, maybe a deal does get done. But I think the main thing to look at with Aaron Glenn, just as far as what the Jets are looking for, is they want somebody who's going to embrace being a Jet, embrace being a part of that organization, embrace being in New York, even embrace some of the circus elements of it, because you got to deal with all of it if you're in that job. And some of the people that they've had there over the last 10 to 15 years, you start to hear when things go wrong, like, this place is like sucks. This place isn't like this is everything everybody said about it. Like, I don't want to deal with it. You're bringing in a guy in Aaron Glenn who is a guy who has seen it, who's been there, who understands New York, who's got the personality to manage all of it. And so I think in so many ways, like, this is exactly what the Jets wanted: a guy who could set a new culture, and a guy who would embrace being in New York, and a guy who would embrace being a Jet. And so, like, I think that that's why he's the right choice. Now, again, the Saints like him a lot too. So if this thing drags out further, the weather clears in New Orleans, he's able to get on that plane to the Saints. Maybe this thing opens back up. But I think the likelihood now is that he will be the head coach of the Jets, the next head coach of the Jets. And then maybe Lance Newmark comes with him as the new general manager. He's the assistant GM with the Commanders, was in Detroit before that. So he was in Detroit for 3 years with Aaron Glenn. Those two guys know each other really well. And if Ben Johnson had to bring a GM with him, wherever he wound up going, I think it probably would have been Lance Newmark. If, say, the Raiders hired him, I think Lance Newmark would be coming with him. If the Jaguars had hired him, I think they probably reassign Trent Baalke and make Lance Newmark the GM. So Newmark's guy is very well thought of among all the people in Detroit. Finally, our third topic for today, we are going to hit on that Jacksonville job. And Liam Cohen, the news this morning, I believe it was Adam Schefter, had this, that Liam has pulled his name out of the running. And I think a huge part of this for Liam himself, like, they made it worth his while. So money's not a non-factor. They did make it worth his while to stay. But I think Liam's found a place that his family really likes. He loves the organization there. They've given him a chance to grow and evolve. And I think leaving after a year, I'm not sure that was exactly what he wanted to do. Now, I think he would have been the leader in the clubhouse for that Jacksonville job. Robert Saleh is right there too. But I think when, Liam Cohen looks at it, it's like, is this the right opportunity for me right now? I bounced around a lot. He went from Kentucky, if you remember, in 2021, where he got that great year out of Will Levis. 2022, he's with the Rams. 2023, he's at Kentucky, going back there. And then this year, he's with Tampa. It's a lot of moving around for a few years. So you can understand where he'd want to spend consecutive years and in the same place for the first time in quite some time, and really try to build something there. So Liam Cohen pulls his name out of the mix. I think Robert Saleh becomes the leader in the clubhouse for that job. You also have Patrick Graham there. Saleh's got background with ownership, having worked there before under Gus Bradley. I believe it was 2014 to 2016. He was there previously as their linebackers coach. And I think what Saleh has to offer them is a chance to really energize the program. And obviously there'll be big questions about who's going to be his offensive coordinator. I think the timing of this could mess with some things. Like, there might be a guy or two off the board right now that he would have looked at as bringing his offensive coordinator. But I do think Saleh is a very, very solid choice to be the next head coach in Jacksonville. And again, like, I think, he can reach into that Kyle Shanahan family. Maybe he can even bring in Mike LaFleur, who is his offensive coordinator with the Jets, who's back out with the Rams now in a non-play calling capacity. Bring somebody with him from that family that will know how to get the most out of a quarterback. So I think Jacksonville is one that could come together by the end of the week, and a lot of these might be wrapping up by then. So obviously things have been moving fast and furious over the last few days. We'll have all of that covered for you here with another Breer Report coming on Friday, a full-on Breer Report. We'll look forward to the conference championship games, and then of course a mailbag tomorrow. Keep it locked here for all of that. We will see you guys tomorrow.